Battens. What are they? Where did they come from?
The Wave Rover 650, a design based on my single-handed ocean voyages. She's small, light, but easy to build, and strong enough to cross any ocean.
My name's Alan Mulholland, and this is the Wave Rover story. So battens are the components inside the junk rig sail that are located between the boom at the bottom and the yard at the top of the sail. And they're the individual components that make the sail so easy to reef and keep the sail extended in all conditions. Now, you do have a couple of options here. So one option is, and this is where you see most people going these days, and that's with aluminum tube. So you try to get an aluminum tube that's light enough, but at the same time stiff enough that you can compress it and it won't bend. So this in particular you need for a cambered sail. But for my flat sail, wood is still a very good option. Why? Well, because you can get wood just about anywhere in the world. If it breaks, well, it's still usable, and you'll see I can make a yard, or I can make battens from many smaller components, and they'll still be absolutely usable. Wood is way cheaper in my neck of the woods here than aluminum.
Well, it's too cold to be working inside the boat to do any glue ups, so what I've turned my attention to is my Plan B list, which are a number of items I can work on even in the cold weather, and that's cutting the battens right now for the sail. Those battens need to be pretty much about 13 feet when they're finished. So I was able to buy ash. Now, why did I pick ash? Ash is one of those woods that's noted for its flexibility. So, and that's what I'm after. I want the battens to be able to take the shape of the sail when the sail is under load. Now, because I can only get them in 8-foot lengths, I've had to pretty much buy 2 8-foot lengths to make one 13-foot length, because the ends need to be, well, like, you know, the ends, they're not perfect. It's wood. I've trimmed off a lot of the broken and shattered bits from the ends here, but you can see just in this line right here, the boards, I've pressed them together, but yet you can see these big gaps. And, you know, it's unfortunate that they're not all true and straight. I've picked the straightest ones I can for the long lengths, but even those ones have defects in them. But taken together, once it's all scarfed up and there's about 10 knots of wind in the sail, all these are going to bend in the right direction. So I'm not worried. But right now I'll just finish cutting the scarves on the shorter pieces. Then I'll get them inside the dining room because Mrs. Rover's out of the house right now, and I think I'll be able to at least get them glued up before she gets home. I'll have to do them in 2 batches, though. I don't have space to do the 6 battens all at once. All right, time to crack on with the remaining scarf joints. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just wet out the surface here like we always do. That's a pretty good glue, but there's plenty of wet out, that epoxy on the wet out, so I'm going to make this just a little bit thicker. Okay, that's really nice. That's a nice gap filling glue. All right. Okay, so we have glue set up. We only need to set up glue on one half of the joint, and then the other two that I'm doing are right here. So now it's just time to get it in place and clamp it. Okay. So previously I had little hash marks set up on these to help me line everything up. So I need to orient that now. And so there we go, our little hash marks are all lined up. So next thing we want to do is just clamp the boards down. Make sure we're going to line up when we squeeze them. Yep. And these clamps just keep everything from sliding apart. It's fast and easy. And because this is an epoxy and a gap filling glue, all we need to do are just use these little spring clamps, and you'll see what happens. It just pops the glue right out. And so we have glue squeeze out all along the joint and the top and the bottom. I know the bottom's the same. And that's all you really need to do to get a good joint. I'll clean this up off camera. Okay, so the glue up is complete. Now this is interesting because I got 8-foot lengths to make these battens, and these battens are about 13 feet long. That's the finished size that I need them. So you would think that 2 battens would add up to 16 feet, but that's not the case. In this case, I managed to get about 14 feet just with the one scarf joint. And in this case right here, I've had to put 2 scarves in, one down here, just an extra couple of feet, and then a scarf in the center. And the reason for that is because when you get this hardwood, you know, it has defects in it. And I just didn't want any defects in something so important as the battens, where they have to take a curve and not snap. So any checks or any cracks had to be removed before I was going to be happy with it. So yeah, so 2 scarves in these 2 outer ones right here, and then 2 scarves in this one, and I already have 2 that I did yesterday that are over in the shop. Gosh, it really is a cold one this morning. It was minus 18 when I entered the shop. It's well, it's still minus 18. It's going to warm up to minus 13 as the high today. But I want to show you the batten. I've worked the first one, and I'll show you the actual process going through the second one. So this is the batten. I have it stretched out, and well, it's hard to stretch anything out in the shop right now. But all I've done is I've gone to where the scarf is, which is right here. I don't know if it's really obvious. It's right along this point right here. And I've just taken a little bit of sandpaper to knock the glue back on that. And then I just took the router and just rounded the 4 edges. That's all I've done. This is pretty raw. But it only needs a light sanding before I put the paint on it. But I'll hold off until more springtime weather, and then I'll get the mast, the yard, the boom, all done at the same time. So this is the router I'm using. It's a Porter cable. I've had this router for decades. It has never let me down. It's a really good quality router, nice and simple, just the way the Rover philosophy likes it. And that's a 3/8 round over bit in the top. Okay, so it is still minus 18 Celsius in here. But that's okay, we can work through this. So I've got a little bit of glue residue on what is the scarf line right here, and some more residue squeezing out right there. So I'm just taking down all the high points. There we go. You don't have to be perfect, you just want to knock down the really high stuff. Okay, the next step is we're going to take the power planer to this and clean off at a really nice level surface. Now when you do something like the power planer, you want to set it to a very light setting. Do not have it set that it's taking off 1/8 of an inch. You want to be thinking in terms of maybe a 32nd of an inch. I'll just put a clamp on this. I always feel better when the work is secured. You just need a little bit. Bearing protection. That's pretty good. We'll be hitting this with a sander later on, and that'll just finish that off. But that's really nice right now. Nice, very nice. Okay, so the battens are all done, and I'm pretty happy with them. You know, in some cases, or what happened was I bought enough ash to do 8 of these, but by the time I got rid of some crooked bits and some bowed bits and some ends that had checking in them, I really only had enough material left to do 6. And I think I would like to carry 1 spare at the very least, so I'll have to go back and get some more ash. But they are nice, you know, the scarf joints. There's a scarf joint right there. Now that it's rounded over, you can see it's really quite nice. You know, it's quite artistic. But having said that, these will get a couple of coats of S1, and then I'm not sure, I might end up painting them before they go into the pockets. I don't know if it'll be necessary. I'll have to think on that. Anyway, they are going to get put off to the side. There's no more work that'll be done on these until springtime when I go to do the mast.
I'd like to take a moment to honor the Wave Rover benefactors. So what is a benefactor? Well, these folks have made a contribution of $100 US or more to the project, and their names will be affixed to a bulkhead inside Wave Rover and will be traveling with me on our circumnavigation. Now, these donations truly are much appreciated. Well, the Wave Rover patrons, with their pledges of support, really do make the creation of these videos possible. Now, if you'd like to know more about Wave Rover's patron page and benefactors bulkhead, I have links to both those pages in the video description. Now, another way to help Wave Rover, and it doesn't cost you a dime, is by sharing our content on your social media. So now, as always, Rovers, thanks for watching. Give us one more. Brilliant.